What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 1025 podcast. This is episode 15. I'm Jordan Walton along with Kristen and Ayana. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that has been on a lot of people's mind lately in regards to entertainment, and that is tokenism. Sorry about that. Tokenism. And the main reason why I'm bringing this up is because it has been revealed. Let me share my desktop to you guys. It has been revealed that Warner Brothers is creating a new Superman movie with J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates writing it. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter, and it basically states that when Warner Brothers announced in February that celebrated author Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing the screenplay and Abrams is producing, it did not address the matter of who is helming it. And they are basically looking for a black actor to portray the Man of Steel, basically. Now, and it's also confirmed that Michael B. Jordan is also going to be developing his own Black Superman project for HBO Max in the form of a limited series, but we don't really know that much about that project. So mainly we're going to be talking about the Ta-Nehisi Coates one. Now, in the comics, there exist two characters who basically bear the mantle of Superman. The first one is Calvin Ellis, who's essentially the president of the United States in the comics, and also Val Zod, who Michael B. Jordan is playing in the film. These two characters cause a lot of controversy, mainly because they are tokenized versions of Clark Kent, Superman. And the Ta-Nehisi Coates version is going to be basically a race-bent Clark Kent. So basically Clark Kent, but black, which doesn't really make any sense. Now, for those who don't know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is, he is an activist. He was an activist turned journalist. He's the main correspondent for The Atlantic, and his political views are very controversial to media and the general public. A lot of his work, he focuses on white supremacy and critical race theory and all that type of stuff. He also has an anti-American rhetoric where he even bashes the first responders of the September 11 attacks, where he called them menace of nature instead of the actual terrorists. And then there's even a memoir of his where he's literally smoking weed while looking at the World Trade Center collapsing. I want to ask you guys, in regards to the idea of taking a well-known character and just race swapping them, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Do you guys find that cool, or do you guys think that that's like a spin in the face to the other original African American characters that were created?
Um, I think that in some cases, when the race or ethnicity of a character is important, in my opinion, it should be frowned upon to race bend that character. Like, nothing really comes to mind, but I know there are a lot of characters in the Marvel and DC universe that are a certain ethnicity or a certain race for a reason. It may be their background or it adds to their story or whatever. But when it comes to stuff like Superman, I, to a certain degree, can understand why people would be upset about it because, he was a part of so many people's childhood and they spent, most of their time growing up with this certain type of character and they're used to him being white and this tall, brooding, really kind person that brings joy to everybody. And it can be a little shocking to see him be adapted into a black man, but I don't think that would take away from his character. I don't think it would lessen the impact of Superman or Clark Kent because him being white doesn't add to him being Superman. First of all, he's an
Right.
alien. It don't matter
Exactly.
what race he is or what ethnicity he is. He could come out blue and y'all would still watch it because he's an alien. I don't think it should really matter. I think if this were like for example, Miles Morales, he is a specific type of Spider-Man from a different universe or a different dimension. But his backstory is that he's Afro-Latino.
Yeah.
You can't make him white because he grew up with a black father and I think she's Dominican or Puerto Rican. I don't remember which one, but with a Latina mother. And that's his story. He speaks Spanish. He's brought up in this very heavy Hispanic culture, and to just somebody come around and say, "Oh, well, I want him to be Asian," that takes away from his character.
Yeah.
You can make a different kind of Spider-Man if you want to and make him Asian, but you can't take a character that has already dwelled in this immense culture and this is who he is, and then you turn him something else.
Yeah.
Whereas Superman, as important as his role is in the DC universe, him being white doesn't add to that. He could be any race, ethnicity, color, whatever, and still be Superman.
Right.
I could understand people's I can understand people's emotion behind the um I can't think of the word, behind the nostalgia of Superman and his character. But I don't think people should be necessarily upset that somebody just wants a black person to play the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen?
I actually think a lot of the uproar was just Superman was already a white character and they're suddenly making him black. So I think the only conflict was like, are they doing this just for diversity's sake, or are they doing this because they actually want to include us?
They're mainly doing this because, first off, they saw the success of Black Panther, which Ta-Nehisi Coates actually wrote. He wrote two comics for Marvel. He wrote a Black Panther run called The Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, and then he wrote a Captain America run where it's basically, which not a lot of people liked, where Captain America is there. He went too woke when it comes to critical race theory and all that. And when I heard that he was attached to this project, Ta-Nehisi Coates, I automatically knew that, okay, in this film, they're going to explore a lot of critical race theory. They're going to explore white supremacy. They're going to explore the idea of, okay, what happens when our world's savior, basically the most powerful being in the universe, is a black man? Do I want to see that? Not really, but I get why that's very important, especially in the climate that we are in now. And piggybacking off of what Ayana said, even Miles Morales, he's tokenized Spider-Man. He's a Afro-Latino Spider-Man, even though he's very different from Peter Parker. And I'm talking about Into the Spider-Verse. Miles, the comic book Miles Morales, I think he wasn't really, as a lot of people didn't really like that character until Into the Spider-Verse came out, which is a film that I truly admire. But the thing is with Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it has to be probably his anti-American rhetoric that a lot of people don't like about him, and that's why it's like, okay, out of all the people to write this character, you chose this dude, a man who has gone on time and time again pretty much proclaim that he hates America. He hates what the United States stands for. I
Which
also
is
want to ask
why
you.
I completely understand. Which is why I completely understand why people are upset about it. Like if somebody else wrote it, if Spike Lee was behind it, or some other Tyler Perry or some other black director, writer, producer, whatever, I could give a little more leeway. But knowing his background and what he really stands for, I think it is a little odd for them to pick him to really write and back this whole project. It seems a little gimmicky to me, a
Yeah.
little performative. They just wanted an activist, someone who was openly an activist for the Black community, and they were just like, okay, you do this for your community. We like that. We want that. So we're gonna take you, without really diving any deeper into who would actually fit the best for writing the project or directing the project or anything
Right.
like that. It's weird to have someone like that write for a character that, even though isn't even from this planet, is very much patriotic in what he fights for and who he fights for.
Right.
It's a little odd for them to have him pick it up, but I'm not really a Spider-Man fan anyway. But like I said, I can definitely understand why people would be upset about who is writing the character.
Right.
rather than the character just being Black.
Right. And it's weird that he took two of the most patriotic superheroes, Superman and Captain America, and he just, threw his political agenda at both of those characters.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, a lot of the average like comic book community, they're like, okay, I don't mind that. Like me personally, I don't really care about the color of a fictional character's skin as long as you guys have a great story. You guys know what I'm saying? Like, out
Yeah.
of everything in the world to worry about, the last thing I need to worry about is who who's going to be cast to play a fictional character, something
Right.
someone that started off as a drawing, basically. That's because
Right.
that's what these characters were, drawings. But a lot of people, they get this idea that everything has representation has to matter. And yes, representation does matter. Like, let's take Black Panther, for example. That was a cultural phenomenon. But me personally, and this is my personal philosophy when it comes to this, if you can't relate to a fictional character besides race, then I feel like the creator of that character didn't really do their job. For example,
Exactly.
one of my favorite characters growing up was Spider-Man. Now, why was Spider-Man my favorite character? It wasn't because he was white. It wasn't because, like, I'm not white nor from New York, but I understand what it's like to lose somebody that you care about. I know what it's like to feel powerless, and sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I know what it's like to have to go through the world, and you have to have responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. Like, I know all that stuff. Same thing with Superman. I'm not an alien from Krypton, and I'm damn sure not powerful, but I know what it's like to morally, get up every day and try to be the best that I can be. And a lot of other characters, I don't feel that. That's my personal stance on it. But
And
what are
I
y'all's
think
thoughts on like representation and all that type of stuff?
representation on all fronts is very important. No, regardless of what you're trying to represent, everyone should feel like they are being represented in the
Exactly.
media. When it comes to stuff like, my dad and I recently watched A Quiet Place 2, and it was so fascinating to me that they got this whole cast of people to learn sign language. They all accumulatively spoke about maybe 20 minutes in the film, and it's maybe an hour, 30 minutes, 2-hour movie. That's a lot, and I'm sure there's some hard of hearing person or some deaf person watching this movie and going, "Wow, this girl is doing all this stuff when she's just as handicapped as I am." I feel like I'm capable of pulling my family through something and surviving even when it seems as hard as I feel like I'm capable of, persevering despite the obstacles that have been laid in front of me. Stuff like that is very important for people who are marginalized and don't feel like they get the representation in the media that they're consuming. When it comes to characters and superheroes and villains and whatever the case may be, everybody has the right to feel like they're seen, to feel like they know that they're existing in this world as well as other people. For as long as television and newspapers and all this internet stuff has been around, white people have been the forefront of media.
Right.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it comes to the 21st century and we're coming into 2021, there's no way that you can't look where you are and notice that people are underrepresented. The Black community is finally being able to, even now, like, have a voice for themselves. When Black Panther came out in 2016, I was like, this is the first time that I have seen a superhero. This is the first time that I've seen a movie with Black people in it, about Black people, and it's not about our trauma. And
Exactly.
we are in the forefront. We are nothing but the cast. That's it. There was one white person. There was two white people in that whole movie.
Yeah.
And their roles were important, but not nearly as important as T'Challa or Shuri or their mother or his father or even Michael B. Jordan. Like I got so sick and tired growing up watching nothing but us on the screen being beaten and traumatized and always talking about what amendment was written for us or what we went through during slavery. I know all of that stuff. I would like to see something where Black people are being powerful and we're saving people and we're doing amazing things and we're persevering despite our obstacles. 2016 was the first time in my whole life I saw a movie starring a majority of Black people and we weren't being traumatized. And the first thing that I hear when that movie comes out is all these different communities complaining about how they don't have that same representation. And that's not good. It's not good that one community is being brought to light and really being shown what we can do and who we are. And there are these other communities who are like, well, what about us? Where's our Hispanic superhero? Where's our Asian superhero? How come we don't get that kind of stuff? And that's a problem. Representation can come in many different forms. It doesn't even have to be as big as a whole movie starring nothing but one community. But when you're talking about little kids who just want to know that they can do whatever they put their mind to, they have to see that they can do that first. You can tell a child that you can be whatever you want, all you want to, but until they see someone who looks like them really doing that kind of stuff, they're never going to picture it. They're never going to really picture themselves in that kind of position. It's really important that children are seeing people who look like them so that they know that it's possible, that you don't always have to be the first. You can just join the club.
Right.
Exactly. Representation kind of creates like a sense of belonging. Like, oh, I see me on screen. I see me out there doing big things. It's kind of like, oh, I have my place in the world. I'm not just a background character.
Exactly.
Or you're not just like a stereotype, you know.
Yes.
Exactly.
See, when it comes to certain characters like in Marvel and in DC, I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. The problem that I have with it is that companies only find the legitimacy in the well-known classically white characters. There's a YouTuber, his name is Eric B. July, right? And he has this YouTube channel called Young Ripper 59. I'm gonna put the link in the description of this video. And he talks all about this tokenism, right? There are a lot of examples of certain characters who have been tokenized and they push their agenda. For example, most recently, Disney released The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where, and this really isn't a spoiler because if you guys have seen Avengers Endgame, you know that Sam Wilson becomes Captain America. Steve Rogers hands him the shield and he becomes Captain America. Now, as much as I dug the show, a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't like that they took an original Black character like the Falcon and they just put him under Captain America's wing, and now he's the sloppy seconds of Captain America. You know, even when it comes to, and I have a few examples of original Black superhero characters that they can utilize that DC even owns. For example, let me share this. Okay, real quick. For example, this is the Milestone universe, right? This is basically, it was created by this guy named Dwayne McDuffie, right? And they basically created characters who fit in a urban modern setting, and they tackled a lot of very serious topics like drug addiction, I think police brutality, even though I do not want to see none of that in films anymore because I've grown sick and tired of that stuff. It was very revolutionary back in the 90s that somebody took a fictional character, a comic book character, and infused them in real life. A lot of people want this guy named Icon, who is basically the closest someone will get to a Black Superman, where he basically has the same story as Superman. He crash lands on a plantation. he scans the DNA of a slave woman, and then that slave woman takes him under his wing, and he becomes, the new hero of the modern era. This is Rocket, who's basically his sidekick. They go around doing adventures and all that. You have Static Shock, who is essentially, he's kind of DC's answer to Spider-Man, where he's basically a teenage superhero. That's a typical archetype. Then we have Hardware, who is essentially Black Iron Man. He owns his own company, he has his own technology, and he fights like tech-based villains and all that stuff. Now, other examples of race bending and even whitewashing, if you will, is the Ghost in the Shell film from 2017, where Scarlett Johansson plays Major Kusanagi. Now, I'm a humongous fan of Ghost in the Shell. I didn't mind this casting when it was first announced. I did find it weird because it was like, okay, her name is Motoko Kusanagi, and you cast an American white woman to play a Japanese woman, basically. And then it's revealed in the film that, oh, she originally was a Japanese girl. She died, and then they put her consciousness in a white woman's body. And if that was just plain old stupid to begin with, if it was black people, then that would have been even more stupid. It would have been even more controversial and crazy. And then another one is there is an Anne Boleyn miniseries, basically, where they cast a black woman, Jodie Turner Smith. I'm sure you guys have probably seen the movie Queen and Slim, where she's in this movie. This is different because this is history. Now, granted, we don't know what Anne Boleyn really looked like because this is only a painting that we're going by, but the fact that that the BBC, the network that created this show, just forcibly took a already well-known figure like Anne Boleyn and just pulled the race bending card on it. I just find that just kind of weird. Now, going back to the Black Superman film, they described this similar to a 20th century period piece. So anything from 1901 to 2000. We don't know where this would take place in. A lot of people have been speculating that this might take place during the Tulsa race riots, which I don't want to see. A lot of people even say the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest thing is, do I really want to see a black struggle film masquerading as a superhero movie?
Nope.
And that's my issue. That's always the issue. It always is masked by this welcoming theory of a movie, and you're like, wow, that sounds really good. I would love to see that. And then, like you said, it's turned into some kind of period piece about brutality or traumatic history or something like that. I'm like, I just want to see people fight in the street and destroy a city without it being racist or racial. You can have a black Superman, you can have an Asian Superman, you can have any kind of Superman that you want. It doesn't change his character. You can't make a movie out of something from a character that it's not.
Exactly.
That, like, even past the whole race thing, that was my issue with one of the Superman movies where they had made him this kind of melancholy, very sad and depressed character, but that's not who Superman is. That's not Clark Kent. That's not his character. And it just ruined the whole vibe of the movie because, like I said, I'm not a fan, but I've seen every Spider-Man movie. I've seen every Batman movie. And I've never seen him like that. And it just made me like, this is a bad movie. Why would y'all make him into this sad and depressed guy? He's never been sad and depressed. He's a person that brings joy and helps people and does everything he can to keep his community safe. Why would you make this whole movie surrounding a character that isn't him? And now that they're making a racially motivated, I should say, movie, and then just masking it as representation is even more of a problem. If you want to represent the Black community and make a Black Superman, make a Black Superman. Don't turn it into a period piece and don't make it racial.
Yeah.
Exactly. We want to see us be happy on screen.
Exactly. That doesn't even make any sense.
And from the looks of Ta-Nehisi Coates' work, like I mentioned, a lot of his work focuses on that white supremacy. You know, he pushes this critical race theory agenda that is so like it I can't even describe it. It's insane to me. Like even a philosopher who I admired a lot, pretty much my whole life, Dr. Cornell West, he basically described it perfectly himself. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he fetishizes white supremacy. He fetishizes the idea of black plight, you know, which I just don't understand. It's like as a writer, as a aspiring creator like myself, you want to tell stories that instead of trying to go back and you have to relive history, go forward. Go forward. Tell
Make
a new
history.
story. Tell a new story, you know?
And like, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with wanting to tell a story of reality or what you see when you walk out of your door. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with wanting to tell the story of the plight of the Black man or the Black community, but you can't shove it into spaces where it doesn't belong. If you want
Right.
to have a conversation about those kinds of issues, have that kind of that kind of conversation on your own platform in your own system.
Right.
You can't bring it into this comic community that just raves about superheroes. You're gonna bring everybody down, expecting to see
Yes.
Superman black and powerful and kicking ass and doing this and doing that, and then you just see him raving to white people about white supremacy.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about it, talk about it. Nobody's saying that he can't. And I think it is a little weird the way that he fetishizes white supremacy and how he just is obsessed with this idea of dismantling white supremacy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to bring that kind of topic into a realm of superheroes. That's just
Right.
ridiculous. You're talking about a really real and tangible and scary and dangerous situation from a fictional character.
Exactly. And
I
while
don't
the, and while the best art is a reflection of an artist's reality, you have to realize that this is the realm of fantasy. Not a lot people who read comic books probably don't give two shits about what's going on in the world. When I was growing up reading Marvel and DC, I didn't care about what was going on. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized, oh crap, all of this is really happening to people like me, you know.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna I'm gonna also kind of introduce like another topic real quick, right? In the early episodes of the 1025 podcast, specifically episode 1 through 3, we talked a lot about colorism and how colorism can affect how black artists get roles and how they pretty much, you know, stand out in the industry. Do you guys think that which do you guys think tokenism is somewhat kind of a version of colorism in a way where they're taking a classically white character and instead of, you know, making an original character, they're just doing, okay, here's a black version or here's an Asian version, a Hispanic version. This is all that you guys have, the black community, you know, instead of
Yeah.
developing more original characters and telling those stories. Because there are a lot of original black characters in Marvel and DC that no one has explored yet. What are y'all's thoughts?
I think that I don't think colorism is a form of tokenism, but I do think colorism is affected by tokenism, if that really makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Black representation, although it's not scarce, I guess as much as it used to be, but even when Black people are being represented, it's by the most palatable Black person, a light
Yeah.
skinned person, somebody who's mixed race. Like
Uh,
the best example I can really think of is Zendaya. She
yeah,
is a phenomenal actress. I love her in everything that she's ever been in, but she is not the only Black person who can play a
exactly.
teenager.
It's the
I
same
feel
reason
like
they use. It's the same reason they use Scarlett Johansson and everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
she's
Like
the only white person out.
I love seeing Zendaya. I love seeing her in movies and in TV shows and whatever she's on at a time, but there are more black people who can play that role of a teenager who are darker skinned.
Yeah,
She was in Euphoria. She was in the newer Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. She
yeah,
was in, I don't remember what movie it was, but I think it was on Netflix maybe a year or two ago. I never watched it, but I'm not tired of seeing Zendaya, but I'm tired of seeing the same person in every single black role. There has
yeah.
to be more representation on the spectrum. Black people come in all kinds of shades, as you can see. We're all black people on this podcast, and we're all 40
Right,
different colors.
right.
It's ridiculous to me that the movie industry, the film industry, has such a hard time with finding different colored black people. It's always
Right,
the palatable black person who is either mixed race or just light skinned.
right.
And I don't have a problem with it in the sense that I love seeing my people on the screen, regardless of what shade they are. But I would love to see some different colors. I'd like to see some deeper browns,
Yeah,
some dark chocolate in there, something. It can't always be the same shade over and over and over again, because every single
right.
time there's a darker skinned person on the screen, it's about black trauma.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And like you
I
said,
never see not one light skin on the screen when it comes to slave movies.
right. And like you said, everybody on this podcast, we're all black, but we come in different shades,
Different.
different colors, and all that type of stuff. But yeah, like even colorism, because Kristen, I know you know in the earlier episodes, we talked about this a lot from Vibes
Yes.
Cartels, skin bleaching, and I think it was Jamaica. I think it was skin bleaching.
Yes.
It I think Shanti brought up something when it came to like my head is like spinning, so I'm kind of like jumbling
I
up.
have the note.
Right, right.
We talked about Zoe Saldana
Yeah,
and
the
Nina
Zoe
Simone.
Saldana, Nina Simone situation, which I actually have a
Mhm.
picture of. I'm gonna try to bring this up, but we got like 6 minutes left. But give me like one. Okay, it's not up, but I'm sure you guys have all seen that picture where she basically that's like her first look as Nina Simone, and it was basically her in blackface with a weird afro, and she looked nothing like her to be honest. But yeah, man.
Like I even remember a while ago, people were pinning Beyonce and Rihanna against each other, saying that Beyonce is more beautiful because her skin is more beautiful and she's so much lighter. They're both beautiful women. Why
Right,
does it
don't.
matter?
Right,
Why does it? They're
right.
both beautiful black women.
Yes,
Why does it matter the color of their skin that makes them the prettiest?
right.
That never made any sense to me. And
I
it's everywhere. And it's so apparent in this society that it's run over into different forms of media. It's
right.
all that I see now.
I still don't understand that. Y'all comparing Beyonce and Rihanna. It's like, damn, they both beautiful. I mean, of course, I'm the Beyonce simp and gonna say Beyonce's always gonna be bae, but like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they're both like, come
But
on.
like people can have their opinions on who they
Right,
like, but
right.
you can't just definitively say that Beyonce is more beautiful than Rihanna because she's got lighter
I mean,
skin.
they're both gorgeous.
They're both gorgeous.
Like if I
You can't
walked up
even
to both of them, they
have.
would probably not even give me the time of day.
Exactly. You
Like
can say you like one person over the other, but to say that one is more beautiful is
yeah,
really
man.
overstepping.
Right, right. That's really upsetting. Both Beyonce, Rihanna, and Nicki Minaj, in my opinion, they for life. But
And
yeah.
before we end, I
Hmm.
also have to say I am so tired of seeing black people as the villain.
Oh, I
Exactly.
hate
Every
that.
single
Yeah.
time
Either
there's
we're the villain or we're the victim.
Or
we're the
the
Why
victim.
can't
or,
we just be the victors for once?
or the magical mystical Negro in horror
Exactly.
movies.
We're we're always the sensical, wise, oh my God, I got all your, I'm the witch, I'm the, can we just be normal civilians who go to jobs and
Right.
pay
Exactly.
bills?
That's why I kind of like that more representation is coming out. Like with Easter Race Insecure, I was like, oh my gosh, I see myself on screen.
Exactly. Like I absolutely refuse to watch Black Lightning because they have this guy with albinism that is just so awful. He is just this
Yeah.
really bad guy. He's always
Yeah.
talking down on his fellow Black people. I'm like, why would y'all make him like that? Why would y'all write this character like that?
Yeah.
That character
Why?
is very rude.
He's weird.
A lot of
Like,
people don't like Black Lightning. I heard Black
And
Lightning
then like
is
they wrote the
trash,
whole
high key.
backstory about why he was that way, but it still was just like he could have learned.
right. Like you as a Black person, regardless of what skin color you have, you shouldn't be going around purposefully trying to hurt Black people, calling them all kinds of slurs and stuff. That's weird.
Right.
Very.
But
I can't stand it.
but yeah, we're back. New episodes. Any final thoughts when it comes to just the idea of tokenism? You know, we might continue this topic in like future episodes, maybe, but I think today pretty cool discussion when it comes to tokenism, and I'm glad that I got to hear you guys' views on this idea because it's great when you hear someone else's perspective on something that you probably wouldn't really agree on.
Yeah. I think tokenism isn't necessarily a bad thing if the representation that you're trying to convey is done right.
Yeah.
If you want to encapsulate this identity for this character, fictional or not, and you center it around their race or their culture or their ethnicity, the best that you can do in that situation is not turn them into a stereotype. Don't make them the stereotypical Black person or the stereotypical Hispanic person. You can make Black people have different personalities and do different things and think differently, act differently. Same with any other culture, community, ethnicity, race, whatever. Tokenism doesn't have to be a bad thing as long as the representation isn't conveyed in such a way that it's harmful to that community or any other community.
Yeah.
I definitely think representation without inclusion isn't really representation. So I think we shouldn't really do diversity just for the sake of it and actually have some meaning and intention behind it. So that way it's not just symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you guys for watching the 1025 podcast. If you guys like what the three of us are doing, you guys can donate to our Patreon. I actually started a Patreon like 3 fucking weeks ago. So the link's in the description right there. And yeah, I'm Jordan along with Kristen and Ayana, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Bye.
Hold on, how the fuck do I stop this?